Assalamu alaikum friends. Welcome to question number 40 from your September 2018 from your SBR revision kit, the Kaplan kit. Okay. Even if you follow BPP, also the questions these are from past papers, so the questions will be same. Okay. So that shall not matter so much. And before I start this question, I want to make an announcement. I want to say something that. People have been requesting me. I have been getting lots of requests for many papers, in fact, mostly triple A and SBL and the audit, advanced audit and assurance. So for those students, but I wanted to say that right now, okay, for this December exam, I will not be able to do any paper because time is not there. Okay, it's not even a month that you are going to have your exam for December. So I'm going to continue with SBR. Okay, I have few questions left that I have to complete. I think I will need around 10 days, right? 9 to 10 days will be needed for that. And after that, for next year, for your math session, I have not decided which subject I am going to do. Why? Because before I do any paper, I always need to plan the schedule, how it will be, how long will I be covering the lecture with the revision kit. Because as you know, the pattern for the ones who have been in my channel from day one, they know that I do lecture and then I do the revision kit also. The full revision kit is done. Okay. And then some past papers and that's later. Okay. But these are always compulsory. I have done it for AFM. Now I'm doing it for SBR. I'm covering the questions of SBR revision. I have already covered the lecture. So that both lecture and revision kit is there. You know, so that takes time. And the reason why I'm not saying yes for AAA, first of all, let me clear that because I don't have expertise in that. Reason I didn't take AAA as an optional paper. I myself is studying the AAA now. So I don't know when I will cover, when I will finish AAA. And most of you ask guidance that you are sitting for AAA in December and you are asking for guidance. Well, the guidance, I don't think I'm the right person for the guidance because, first of all, I have not done the paper. Okay. Triple A is a very different paper, to be honest with you. The nature is very different compared to other papers. As you all know, the pass rate is the lowest in Triple A. Okay. That makes it the hard. No, I would not say hardest paper, but in terms of people interpreting the questions and Triple A, the audit, the way they study is maybe it's not appropriate. That's why the pass rate is low. So that's the reason triple A is difficult, and that's why people is also asking me because there is a lack of good tutor for triple A, right? There is a lack of tutor for triple A. That's true. So for that, I am not the right person for to promote or say anything about triple A. I'm so sorry for it. Okay, I cannot help it because if I say something, I don't know how well it will work or not. Because I myself is going through the syllabus now. You know, and you're understanding. I'm studying it. Okay, and then I have some questions to go through. I have to see. Maybe I have done revision sorry, some revision classes, not revision classes, I would say. It's like that 3 day uh, revision series for AAA. I have done it. The reason is because I have this pocket kit, and from there I took and whatever I understood, I explained, and it was quite helpful for the AAA students. So I would suggest that you can take that. You can see those 3D for AAA. That should be helpful. The 3 day revision crash course for AAA, and because other than that I cannot give any advice. I'm not the right person, so you have to go to someone who has taken AAA or who is giving classes on AAA if you know any such tutor, and if I come to know across, I will let you know. Okay, in the emails or Facebook or WhatsApp or Instagram, wherever you're sending me the message, because I get messages through all my, across all my social media asking for AAA. So this is for AAA. Now let us go to SBL. SBL is, I'm not going to do lecture on SBL. I am not going to do revision questions from revision kit. It's not required for SBL. As you all know, SBL is a different paper. It's a 4 hour paper, the only 4 hour paper. Okay. And revision questions is like a knowledge based question. It's not a full, the way how a question is. SBL has one integrated case study used for all the requirements, and the requirements are throughout that, and there will be so many exhibits for that case study. Understood? So for SBL, advice is past paper is enough. Okay, past paper is enough. And if you're going through your notes, you can have your textbook, BPP or Kaplan. On if you don't have, maybe you can access Open Tuition. That's on YouTube for free. You can see the Open Tuition notes, and if you're studying under someone, any tutor and all, maybe they'll be providing you some notes. And one website is there where you have to pay. Uh, I forgot the website. I'm just thinking, what is it? Okay, anyway, when I come, I will let you know. Okay, in the this thing. So for those people, SBL, I'm not planning now because SBL is again, it's a paper which you only need to know mostly the techniques on how to do the paper that I have covered already. It's there in how many time you have to read, how you can annotate, how you are going to link the requirements with the case study, in how many with that 4 hour, how are you going to divide the time in the reading, planning, and writing. I've covered all those things. The only thing I didn't cover is lecture, which is not required because why? It is a self study. Something when you read, you will understand. It is not so difficult like your AFM or your SBR, where you need certain rules to be explained to you, certain way to explain to you. SBL is not like that. You can just read it like a story. It's the easiest paper, easiest in terms of syllabus to understand also, and to remember things also. Because the technical part is very less. Technical things that you have to remember, formulas or things like how you have to do for AFM or SBR, is very less in SBL. That's the reason that even if you see videos of on something, for example, let's say take a topic, integrated reporting. If you see one topic on integrated reporting from anyone, you will understand what is it all about. You understand? You don't have to read, go through 10, 20 videos and waste time on the same topic. So if you go through your Open Tuition videos, if you don't have the textbook, or if you have the textbook, even better, read the textbook once, and that shall be enough. Then you can just go to your past paper, attack the past paper, do your past paper, and past paper from December 2018 onwards, or the past paper. When you're doing past paper, what I would suggest, start the opposite way. Opposite means from the latest to the oldest. First start with the latest paper. Okay, because the things which are tested later has more chance of coming up, because from September 2018 till what is this year, June 2021, December, September paper you will not get for December. So till June 2021, there has been maybe twice or once, I don't know how many times, there might be a change in syllabus. So because of the change in syllabus, I would start with the latest paper, because latest paper means those things will come more because it is in the later syllabus. Okay, but SPL syllabus usually changes are not there so much. Frequent changes are not there in terms of the knowledge part, that and knowledge part also that you have to acquire is very less. Okay, you can just read it. For example, that if you have to analyze a company, or just say assess the what is the external environment of this company, what are you going to use? Pestle, right? The political factor, economic, social, technological, legal, all those things. So these things are something very easy. You can understand automatically technological factors. So look in the case study, what are the technological factors, and take it out and explain. Political, economical, those things. Analyze the company. For example, if you have to analyze how competitive a company is, what are you going to do? Porter's five forces, right? The threat of substitute, threat of the intensity of the competitive rivalry, threat of new entrants, the power of substitute, sorry, the power of supplier, the buyer, the bargaining powers. These things is something which by reading only you will understand. So much of explanation is not required for this thing. That's the reason why I'm not planning to do lectures on SBL, because even if I do, not many people will be, getting it, benefiting out of it. Why? Because there are already so many videos out there on these things. So I thought that if I have to make lecture, some time portion of time I have to spend for that. I have to go, I have to create those videos and then, bring the content in such a way, present PPT, then present. It will rather I could spend that time on some other paper, doing those things, covering those topics where students actually need help and they need to be shown how to do. For example, if SBR, I have to show how a particular standard can be used. AFM, definitely it's there. That's why that's the first paper I started with, because I know AFM you definitely need a teacher. You self-study is not a wise decision for AFM, because there are so many models, so many calculations are there which needs to be taught. So these things, lectures has to be covered. But SBL, you read, you will understand. Anyone, if there is a very doubt, particular doubt, because SBL, if you see, you will not, you will come across this, that in SBL you will not come across students having so many doubts in terms of understanding concept. The doubt can come in the paper, how to write a paper, how to write a proper answer, how to make my answer better, how do I know that this is the right answer. In those things, yes, covering in that time given, those things students will often. So for that, I have already made the videos out there. SBL techniques, how to pass SBL, and all those things. So those things, it's there out on my YouTube. Okay, so you can check it out. Other than that, I don't have any more advice to give you, because everything is explained in those videos. So those things only you have to follow. Okay, so best of luck. And same thing can be done for other session also, not only for December. So don't limit yourself only for December and then next year. No, syllabus is same, everything is same, technique remains the same forever. Okay, so these are the few things that I wanted to cover for the triple A and SBL. And for other papers, your applied skill paper, your financial performance, financial reporting, financial management, performance management, all those things. Uh, there is no plan to cover these things right now. Reason I'm not doing is I got exemptions. Okay, I got 9 paper exemption. That means I didn't do any of this paper. So until I don't see the textbook, until I don't do questions under this pattern, I will not be able to deliver appropriately things. I first need to understand the whole thing scenario. It takes time. It will take time for me also to first go through and then come up to say something. That's why I cannot give you a time. You know that this is the time I'm going to cover. At this time, I'm going to cover this subject. I have so many subjects under my bucket to cover, which I have to upload. Starting from your F1, that was the plan, initial plan. Okay, so I need time. You need to give me time to cover. So that's why advice also, I cannot give you any advice right now. Okay, so for those, the applied skills for F1 to F9, that session, those papers you can, there are so many tutors I can see, they upload videos on YouTube. You can go out and check. Okay, but my papers, the my expertise, are AFM, that I can always help you. SBR, I can always help you. And ATX, that also I can help you, even though I have not uploaded on ATX. Reason, syllabus changes every year. But definitely I will plan to do ATX very soon. Okay, I don't know exactly when, that this is the month, but definitely ATX is in the list. And other than ATX, maybe I will go back to the applied skill paper, because their students, lot of students are there struggling in that level. But for triple A and SBL, I cannot promise you that I'm going to do this thing. It will need time. It needs time. Okay, so now let me come back to this question of our SBR, question number 40, after such a long discussion. Okay, uh, part A, as you can see, even though I didn't read everything, I know it is about APM, alternative performance measure, or you can say additional performance measure. Anyway, requirement is advise the directors whether the above APMs would achieve fair presentation of the financial statements for 10 marks. Okay. Part B, okay, even though I don't know about part A. See, I will tell you a good technique to know what is there in the requirement. Don't read each word by word. Before reading the requirement also you will understand. Some words will be there, some numbers. For example, here I know it is APM. It is in bracket. So, when you're not reading also, just glancing it like that, the question, this automatically will appear first to your eyes, because it is something odd. It's with bracket, whereas other words are without bracket. So automatically you know this is something to do with additional performance measure. Understood? This is the way, this is a technique. This you can use in other papers also, mostly in SBL. But SBL I will not suggest so much because SBL it's an integrated case study and everything. This is very specific because SBR, if you see a word, most of the time what happens is question is on that area only. APM. Understood? So now you see here, you go down. Again the question is on APM only. The requirement. It's good to see one or two words from the case study before you actually read the requirement. It helps a lot, trust me. When you're scanning also like this, you are going through. It's not that you're blindly going like this, you're scanning, right? What's there, even though you're not reading. So here I can see numbers are given. I know this is net cash generated operation from operating activity. I clearly know this has something to do with what? Something to do with IS7 cash flow statement. Otherwise they would have not given this part. Okay. So these things are very clear. Out this from these two words, I understood what is it about. If you read the requirement B, things are there. These three requirements are for part B for your statement of cash flow. And statement of cash flow can come in two areas. One, in question number 1 under your group accounting question, okay, or section B, okay, as under analysis section when you have to analyze and interpret a company, okay, under that topic. So this is under the second topic, not group accounting, because it is in a 25 marks question and 2 professional marks is also given. Okay, when it comes for the second one, that means based on this, how do you analyze a company? It's about that. So now let us finish with the requirement B and B. Yeah, A is video. First is a schedule that calculates net cash generated from operating activities to correct any errors above. You have to correct any errors that are made above. That means you have to calculate this cash generated from operating activities once again. Already is there if you see here. But this 278 is wrong. You have to correct it and calculate again. It's for 4 marks. Okay, so for 4 marks, don't go and explain. Okay, the marks are less, the word says calculate, calculate only. Second, a reconciliation from net cash generated from operating activities to operating free cash flow. From this to that, as described in note. Whenever they have mentioned a particular note in the bracket, that means that's very important. You have to make use of that note. Again for 4 marks. So this is a reconciliation. Here also it should not be explanation. You reconcile the figure. First two. Third, definitely this comes in your question number for a 25 marks question, right? In your section B, explanation will be there. You will never get a question where it's fully calculation and no explanation. It never happens in SBR. Let it be any standard, let it be any topic. It could be your share based payment, it could be your pension, it could be a financial instrument, it could be a property, plant and equipment. Explanation will be there. Maybe the marks will be less or more, 5 marks, for 10 marks, but it will be there. So that means when you are studying, when you are preparing any topic, any standard, starting from IS 1 to IFRS 16, sorry, IFRS for SMS, you have to learn both the things, calculation as well as discussion part. How are you going to explain things? When you're preparing itself only, you have to start with these two things in mind, calculation as well as discussion. It's not only calculation and discussion I will learn at the end. It does not happen that way. Okay, so third is explanation of the adjustments made from this to this. That means explanation, whatever you have done in the first and the second. First to correct, second reconcile. You have to now explain here for 5 marks. 5 marks means 5 points you can write. It has to cover both first and the second part above. And this 2 marks professional mark is only for part B. Okay, it does not come for part A, and part A is for 10 marks. See, now it's your this thing. How do you want to start this? You can start A, you can start B. They are not related to each other. Okay, so let's start with A. So to know whether APM represent fair presentation or not, you have to read each of this. There are 4 points. That means this four, whether they represent fairly represent or not. That's why you're getting 4 marks. 1 mark for each point. Each of these 4 points you will get 1 mark. Understood? But before that, let us read. Most of the time, what happens is these things you can really read very fast. It will not even take 10 seconds also. Why? Because it's always repeated in any question that this company is into this sector, they are preparing financial statements in this one, and their director or whoever has disclosed certain issues. These things are always repeated. You see, he's in the retail industry. Okay, they report APM other than those that are specified by IFRS, and they have disclosed the following APMs. These things are always repeated. So now you should not spend so much of time. Okay, now I will teach you time management today. All these days I have been covering questions. I was not focusing so much on time management, assuming that you are doing that on your part. But I recently was marking a paper. I still didn't give the feedback I have to give. Okay. I came to know that for 4 marks, some question was some other question. The person is writing for 10 marks. They're writing too much. I was like so shocked. I'm like, what is this? First, I was actually happy to see the answer. The answer was really well written, it was really good, but it was for 10 marks. It was 2 pages answer. When I saw the marks, I'm like, I was very shocked. Then I thought that this issue, I have to bring this issue up because most of you are not following it. You have to follow time management religiously. I'm telling you, religiously you have to follow the way you follow the Quran, Bible, or any other religious books. You have to follow it same way to pass this paper ACCA. Okay, so it's for 4 marks. Okay, the moment you get the paper, write the time. This is 4. That means 1 mark for 1.8 minutes. Should not exit. It should not exit, and you should not keep too less also. You don't put 1 minute. It's too less. Stick to 1.8, or you can write 1.5 also. It's okay. But it should not be 1 or 0.5 minutes. It does not make sense. Okay, it should not be too less. It should not be more than 1.8. Never 1.8. 1.8 is the limit. It's fixed at that level. It could be a little bit less than that, but not more than that. 4.1.8, that means it is 7.2. Forget about the 2. Take up the whole number. So 7 minutes. 7 minutes you have to spend for all these 4 things. Okay. So now looking all those things, definitely you cannot divide because you don't know which part needs more. So try to do each in maybe 1 or 2 minutes, 1 minute, or 1.5 minutes, like that. Okay, or if you do 2 minutes also okay. 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. In 6 minutes you will cover, because the last is just what is it's just 2 lines. So maybe 2 minutes for each you can take. Okay, but the problem is you have to read and you have to write also. You understanding? That means when you're reading you have to be super fast, and here this is the time where your practice will come for your assistance. If you have practiced enough on this area on APMs, if you have read and you do the question, now it is there in your subconscious mind. You will not know, you think you're forgetting, but when you come in the exam hall, everything is silent. When you're reading APM, the pattern comes in your mind automatically. You cannot help it, because I've read many times questions on that. You have attempted many times questions on APM, so now you know the format, the layout, how each information will be presented after the other. So because of this, when you're reading also, you will be reading at a super speed, which will help you to save time. Cut down time in reading and spend more time in writing. So your only concern should be on writing. That means you have to type fast. Not writing. You're not writing anymore. It's on a CB platform. So type fast. Type fast. What can you do to type fast? It's up to you. It's totally up to you. I cannot teach you how to type fast. You have to every day sit and type and see the speed. Every day you have to improve little, and take a notepad, take a pen, no typing, pen and a notepad, and write down. Write the date, right? The time you're spending and how many words you're writing in that time. Let's say today I'm allocating 5 minutes. In that 5 minutes, how many words am I writing? Let's say in 5 minutes I'm writing 60 words. Tomorrow it has to be 61 words. Day after tomorrow it has to be 62 words. Like this, slowly you are improving every day. You cannot, one day you are writing 50 words, next day you cannot expect to write in the same time given to you 100 words. You cannot do that. It's not possible. It's not realistic if you are setting like this, objective like this. Remember the SMART. Your objective have to be SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time specified. So don't set unrealistic goals and expect too much from yourself when you are not able to do it. You will not be able to. So 60, 61, 62, 63, like that. And then check your answer with the answer given to you. In 5 minutes, how much were you able to write? Exactly, you will not be able to write like them, nor the length, it will be less obviously, but the points, whether they have covered, whether you also have covered in your words, if that's there, perfectly all right. So that you have to work. Reading comes when you're reading questions. Often when you read questions, automatically your speed, when you're fourth or the fifth time you are doing questions on APM, check your speed with the first time you have done a question on APM. It will be 5 times or 10 times higher if you are doing everything in a correct way from day one. Things should improve. It should not be the other way around, that you're going downwards. If you're seeing anything that now you're taking more time than before, that means something is wrong. Either you're not in a proper mind or something is not working correct. Usually it does not happen. It should not happen like that. But if it happens, then you need to check. You cannot continue doing like that. Always make a list, keep a pen and a paper with you and write your progress. What is your progress? In how long am I reading this much of question? How long am I taking to write? How long am I taking to think also to come up with a point? You have to be fast in thinking and coming up with the points and structuring in your mind, visualizing, and then writing, typing also. This has to be done at super speed. Okay, so I'm not expecting you to do all this in your question one only. When first time you are sitting with your revision kit, you cannot do that. You cannot achieve it. It's not expected from you also at that stage. But if you have done 20 questions, 30 questions, obviously it is expected from you. That by that you have to reach that. Okay, so these are some techniques. So 2 minutes. Okay. So let's read the first one. Okay. Obviously, I will be taking more time here. I cannot exactly spend 2 minutes. Reason, I'm explaining and I'm doing the things at the same time. No, so my explanation time is also there. So, but when you set check, okay, this reading shall not take more than 1 minute. This is the difference between a passing candidate and the one who is going to fail. You will know it. If you are spending this 2 minutes on reading only, that means you have no time left to write anything. This is just an idea I'm giving. I'm not saying exactly 2 minutes only, or you have to force. No, I'm just giving an idea, brief idea, because 7 minutes only you can spend on everything. So that 7 minutes also divide between this three or four things. So let's say 2 minutes. So 2 minutes, if you are reading, taking more than 2 minutes in fact to read, that means you are not an efficient reader. You didn't practice enough. So check these things, little things. It matters a lot. These little things are only your secret to success. Or it could be the reason for your failure also if it's not going in a proper direction. So it should not be more than 2 minutes. If it is, spend more time on reading things. Read books, read articles, try to increase your speed day by day. Read fast and see that when you're reading, are you able to understand also things? Are you able to visualize things fast as you're reading? Okay. But for those students who read lots of books, who are a bookworm, I would say, for them there is an added advantage, because since they have read, they are into reading, they can read things very fast and understand also. So for that they don't have to focus or put so much of effort to practice this skill, because they are excellent in this field. Their only concern is writing part. This is for those, because majority of us, we don't read things, we don't read stuff. We only read on the day of the exam or before the exam. I mean, just I have to be honest, right? So that's the reason that there is a lack of speed Okay, so that you have to read every day. You have to read and check your time. How long are you reading these words? How long are you taking? Definitely, you should take less than 1 minute to read this much. If you ask me to read this much, I'm telling based on the length. I'm telling the number of words. It should be more than less than 1 minute that you have to spend. Exact time, no one will be able to tell, but less than 1 minute only. Not even more than 1 minute. It's not good thing because this question is 4 marks. That means let's say 1 mark only you will get for this. So whether this is a fair representation or not, only you have to say. But you have to use the rule of certain things under this. Definitely, some standard maybe. So let's read. Okay. Operating profit before extra item is often used. Okay. Sorry, I will try to slow down. Okay. I'm used to, I read things very fast. That's the reason that often when I read, students don't understand anything. So I'm sorry, guys. I will try to read a little bit slower for you so that you can understand. Operating profit before extraordinary item. This is often used as a headline measure of the group's performance and is based on operating profit before the impact of extraordinary items. Definitely before means before impact of extraordinary items. So extraordinary items relates to certain cost or incomes. This is basically they are giving definition and everything. Okay, after that the issue will come later. So extraordinary items, so these things you can read super fast because these are just the definition that this is for group performance. This extraordinary item means this. Okay, extraordinary items relate to certain cost or incomes which are excluded by virtue of their size and are deemed to be non-recurring. That means they are non-recurring. Okay, these things we know, we already know before also. I mean, from your when you're studying and all. This is not something new. New things comes down. The main issue. That means excluded. Why? Because they might maybe because of the size or they're non-recurring. So TUBSA has included restructuring costs, and you see here the thing is your issue comes from here. Here you need to read with careful mind, like you have to be alert because from here only you have to write. I will highlight it for you. This Toobasco and it ends here from here to here. Understood? This technique, if you apply for any question, you got the it's like you got the key to success. This is the key. The way you read matters a lot. Everyone can read from first to last of the page, but who will tell you these techniques? That these things are the definition, and from these things you have to focus your attention on, and this is how you have to read. And at this speed you have to read. Who will tell you this, and how will you know it? So subscribe to my channel, share this video with others so that they can get benefit out of it. Okay, to know more of this. Okay, definitely I'll be spending more time because in between I'll be telling you the technique, showing you. So this takes time. So yeah, because of that, length will be more the video. But ultimately, this is something which is going to benefit you, and you need it also. Tabasco has included restructuring cost. Main thing is restructuring cost and impairment losses. Two standards are here, which is covering this. Restructuring cost immediately visualize IS 37. Impairment losses immediately visualize IS 36. Not the whole rule, just the standard number. Okay. So these two are included in extraordinary items. This is the issue. Whether this is a fair representation or not, only you have to answer. Understood? Paragraph is this much, but sentence is only one sentence based on one thing. If you are able to identify this, you have understood everything. All your SBR questions are like this only. They said like not SBR, I would say, in fact, I would say ACCA. If you have identified this, and how do I know? Well, I discovered it by myself. I discovered it on my own. No one taught me this. Even though I studied with good lecturers, some of the best lecturers, I would say, but they never taught me these things. Maybe you know, they might have missed it out, not purposely, maybe. But yeah, some things, these are the things I've discovered, which really helped me to manage my time well and save my time. Because I know first few lines, I don't have to pay so much of attention. I can just read it. Their definition. Come on, I know it. The only thing is my last three lines. So both items have appeared at similar amounts. Okay, similar amounts in the financial statements of the two previous year, and they are likely to occur in the future. Likely to occur in the future years also. Just now we saw the definition of extraordinary. They are not. They are something which is not occurring, but here they told this is likely to occur, and they have included this in the extraordinary items. Wow! Look at this thing. It's conflicting, right, with the definition of the extraordinary items and what they have just done. So is it a fair representation? Do you think? And immediately you will say me no. Immediately if I ask you this question, you will say no, it's not a fair representation. But can you write this in your answer that no, this is not a fair representation, and that's it, you will get the mark? Can you write it? Cannot write it. I mean, it's a no, yes, it's a definite no, but you cannot write it like that. You have to make it, arrange words, and then write nicely using the standard of restructuring as well as impairment. But mostly, so much of usage is not required because this is for 1 mark only, 1 mark only. Understood? They are both are similar amounts. Means restructuring as well as impairment losses are similar amounts, and they have been in the financial statements for the two previous year, and they are likely to occur in the future also. Understood the scenario? Okay. Immediately, let's check the answer how it is written. No need to read others we can read later. Today I'm not going to read everything and make you confused. Today I'm going to cover one thing and show you, take you to the answer, so things are cleared. Okay. If this is the second one, if you see the first one, it's for 4 marks. Okay, if just see the answer. What is it? It's for 10 marks. I'm sorry, it's not for 4 marks. I got confused. This is for 10 marks. I'm sorry, I got confused because I just read B, right? 4 marks. Yeah, so for 10 marks. So when you're starting your answer, you can start in the order given to you. First, second, and third. Don't write first, second, and third. If you see here also, they are not writing first, second, and third. They are writing it in this thing. Oh yeah, they are writing, I'm sorry. Yeah, they are writing. Like, see, start with APM and the first point. Okay. So first point, let's cover. Number 1. This you should know that APMs, start defining APM first before even jumping to that thing. You need to define APM first, because whenever APM is given, define APM. How do you define APM? This definition only you can use. They are not defined by IFRS. You can write IFRS. No need to International Financial Reporting Standard. Writing IFRS is enough. So they are not. And for additional performance measure, APM is enough. Short form. This are standard short form for SBR. It's understood and is known. You can use it. It's safe to use. But don't use short forms where it is created by you. Okay? Because then they will not understand what it is. For example, for restructuring cost, you are writing RC. Don't do this. Okay? You will not be given the marks. Because you know what is RC. They don't know what is RC. And these are not standard. So you cannot use. But IFRS, APMs, this are there in your textbook also. You can use it. It's safe for you to use. Okay. Even I used to use it during my time. So APMs are not defined, and therefore they may not be directly comparable with other companies' APMs. Because they are not defined, what happens? Not, sorry, cut the word. They are not comparable also with other companies' APMs. When something is not defined, you are free. That means you have the flexibility. You can write in your own way. That company will perform APM in another way, so you cannot compare. Including those in the same industry. That means with the same industry also you cannot compare. So now immediately move on to the first point, because we are talking about number 1 here, restructuring and impairment losses. Okay. Because the main topic is that. So if the same category of material items recurs each year and in similar amounts, what happens? Same category of material items recurs each year and also in a similar amount. That is, amount is also very similar from this year to that year. In this example, what are the two things? One is restructuring cost, one is impairment losses. So if you see the word, most of the students does not understand also when to use the rule of the standard, when not to use the rule of the standard. Immediately they see restructuring cost, they think about starting writing the definition of provision. That according to IS 37, restructuring cost should be recognized if these things are there, it should not be recognized. And immediately for impairment losses, they do the same using rule of IS 36. Avoid. What is the main topic? What is the main requirement that is asking from you? Check that. The main thing is requirement is asking whether APMs would achieve a fair presentation or not. Whether if you present things in the financial statements, whether it will be fair or not. That's what the requirement is. The requirement didn't ask you whether this things. You don't have to use the rules here. Okay. Here the main theme is APM. Oh, understood. These two things we just have to mention like this. So for these two items, whether presenting them will be fair or not. That's it. So in this example, this and this, then the reporting entity should consider whether excluding this amount from the underlying profit provides a faithful representation of economic performance or not. Excluding these two things. You have to consider why. Because first of all, it is material, and then it recurs each year, and it is in similar amount. So if you exclude it, looks a bit off, right? You are excluding because it's recurring, it's similar amount, so you have to consider. Word mention faithful representation in your answer. This has to be there in your answer no matter what. Requirement asks you. In the requirement also you see the word faithful representation. I've underlined here. So for each you have to say fair presentation or faithful representation is the same thing. If it's there in your requirement, in your answer it has to be there. Okay. So for 10 marks, let's say 3 marks will be given for this. Okay. I don't know where I will see the marking scheme later. And the IFRS standard. Okay. Now we have to use second paragraph. Start with the second paragraph. This is first paragraph. This is second paragraph. Okay. Under IFRS standard, items cannot be presented as an extraordinary item in the financial statements or in the notes. Thus, it may be confusing to the users of the APM to see this term used. Now, what is extraordinary items? You have to write that. The second paragraph. Extraordinary item is the main thing. Because these things are included where? In the extraordinary items. Okay. So there are two things you have to write. One is whether to exclude or include restructuring and impairment in the extraordinary item. That is number one, that is explained in the first paragraph. Second, extraordinary item. What is it? That you have to write. So definition is given where? Under IFRS standard. So under IFRS standard, items cannot be presented as extraordinary items in the financial statements or in the notes. IFRS standard says anything which is there which comes under extraordinary items, you cannot present them in the financial statement as well as in the notes. Understood? So here, but they are including them in the financial statements under APMs. But IFRS standard says no. So it's contradicting with each other. So this may be confusing to the users of the APMs to see this term used. Understood? It's confusing now. Because IFRS says don't put extraordinary items in the financial statements. They are putting in the financial statements. Okay? Now, what is it? Third paragraph. Third paragraph. Items such as restructuring, cost or impairment loss. See, every time they just refer items, this or that should be this or that. They are not going deep down into the standard. It's not required. So items such as this or this, they should not be labeled as non-recurring, where it is misleading. They should not be labeled as what? Non-recurring, where it is misleading. Usually restructuring cost is non-recurring, right? Like it does not recur so much. So that's why it should not be labeled as non-recurring. It is non-recurring usually, but where it is misleading, where you can mislead, you should not write them as non-recurring. Okay, many entities are quick to classify expenses as non-recurring. Relatively few entities classify incomes as non-recurring. What do you think this is? See, somehow expenses and income both can be of two types: recurring, non-recurring. Recurring means every year you will see the similar type of expenses or income happening. Non-recurring means maybe once or twice it happened and after that it never came. It does not happen frequently. Frequency is less, very less. Okay. So items such as restructuring cost or impairment loss, what do you think they are? Recurring or non-recurring? They are non-recurring, right? They're non-recurring. But even if they're non-recurring, you cannot label them as non-recurring where it is misleading. Sometimes they might reoccur, right? It does not mean that forever it will be non-recurring only. Sometimes when it's reoccurring, you cannot label them as non-recurring. Usually the nature is non-recurring only. But where it's recurring, you cannot label them as non-recurring because then it will be misleading the user. So this third point you will get for talking about the nature of restructuring impairment, non-recurring and recurring, that thing. Third mark you will get here for 3 paragraphs. You see, first, second, and third. So entity can make an adjustment for a charge or a gain. Entity can make an adjustment for a charge or a gain which they believe is appropriate, but they cannot describe such adjustments incorrectly. What is the meaning of? You have to give them action at the end, what they should do and what they should not do instead. Understood? Every point, same thing. It will end like this only. Entity should do this, entity should not do this. So entity can make an adjustment for charge or gain. You can make an adjustment for any charge or for any gain if they believe is appropriate in this case for APM. But they cannot describe such adjustments incorrectly. You cannot describe the adjustment. For example, if it's recurring, you cannot say it's non-recurring. If it's non-recurring, you cannot say it's recurring. You cannot label incorrectly like that. You have to correctly specify them. Okay. We'll see this thing again. The first part. Yes. What did they do here? See, these two were included in the extraordinary items. Extraordinary items means something which is non-recurring, but they are recurring. You see, they are likely to recur. So incorrectly, they have given incorrect description. Understood? That's what they have done correctly, which they should not do. They cannot just describe incorrectly, inaccurately the adjustments. That's what they have done. But if there is any change in the gain or the charge, the amount, that you can do adjustment. Coming to the second point. Wait, immediately I will see whether marking scheme I can get or not. We'll see the marking scheme. Okay. If you see the marking scheme, 1 mark, okay, out of this 10 marks, we'll see how the 10 marks. 1 mark for the discussion of comparability. That is hard to compare because they are not made under IFRS standard. 1 mark you will get for saying that. That's why very important to always start APM like that. Second, 2 marks for extraordinary items. Understood? Just 2 marks. So that's how from first 3 you get 3 points, 3 marks. Now, coming to the second. Okay. Second is about operating free cash flow. How is this calculated? As cash generated from operation less purchase of this. Purchase of own share and the purchase of intangible asset. The directors have described this figure as representing the residual cash flow in the business. That means after you deduct this one, they have described this as residual cash flow. But have given no detail of its calculation. They have just told that this is the residual cash flow. They didn't say how. The description is not given, the amount, the calculation. So they have emphasized its importance to the success of the business. That means they are thinking that this is very important to the success of the business. They have also shown free cash flow per share in bold next to earnings per share. We all know earnings per share. There's a separate IFRS standard on that, IS 33. But what is this free cash flow per share? You have never heard. This is your additional performance measure. So they have shown this in bold next to EPS in order to emphasize the entity's ability to turn its earnings into. Why they have given it in bold next to EPS? To show the entity's ability to turn this earning into the cash. Now we'll read the second. We'll see the second. Second also I think is for 2 marks. You see? This 2 marks. Now, one paragraph, okay? Divide each paragraph. First paragraph is about what? Free cash flow definition. First paragraph is about free cash flow definition. So, deduction of capital expenditure and purchase of own shares and purchase of intangible assets from cash flow from operating activity is acceptable. You're deducting 3 things: capital expenditure, intangible assets, own share. Purchasing of these 3 things, deduct from operating activities cash flow. This is acceptable. You have to say whether it is acceptable or not. First of all, always start with the definition. When some adjustment is defined in certain way, that free cash flow is equal to this plus this minus this. Start with that, whether adding it or deducting it is correct or not. So in this case, it is acceptable. Why? Give the reason why. Because free cash flow does not have a uniform definition. So in this case, when you're deducting these 3 things from operating activity, in this case, it is acceptable because free cash flow does not have a uniform definition. If it had the uniform definition, very easy for you to say it's correct or not this way, because you know it's not into definition. But since here no free definition is there, you can use it in any way. Free cash flow, you can find it out it anyway. So this is acceptable. Second paragraph. Okay, what's the second paragraph all about? It's about reconciliation. A clear description of free cash flow and reconciliation, showing how this measure is calculated. Okay, they should be disclosed. How it is calculated should be disclosed. Basically, you are giving them an action to do, that this should be done, a verb to do. Understood? So clear description of this and this, showing how this measure is calculated, should be disclosed. That means a clear description of free cash flow you have to describe, number one. Because what do you want to do? You want to present the APM in the financial statements in a fair way. So if for that to do, currently is not given, tell them. So clear description of free cash flow. Earlier it's not given, no uniform definition. You give a clear description of free cash flow and how you are reconciling them. This should be, and also how the measures calculated should be disclosed. Okay, so why? So that users can draw conclusions about the usefulness of the APM. Basically, it's like an action you are doing, telling them in the second paragraph. Third, again, it's like an action only, but different thing. Okay, entity should avoid misleading comment. This is about this another thing. Okay, entity should avoid misleading comment when describing APMs. What is that misleading comment? The comment was that it was a residual cash flow. That's what they have commented. So free cash flow does not normally represent residual cash flow. Normally, right? Available as many entities have mandatory debt service requirement also. You cannot say this is the cash left over, the free cash flow. Why? Because from there you might have to pay interest, right? Which is known as mandatory, right? Mandatorily you have to pay interest on your loan if you have taken a loan, debt service. That is the meaning of it. Which are not normally deducted from the measure. So normally this mandatory debt service, let's say interest, okay, in other words interest, finance cost, they are not normally deducted from this free cash flow. So that's why you cannot say free cash flow is a residual cash flow. Residual cash flow means after everything, all of uh, obligation, everything is paid off, whatever cash is left. That is the meaning of residual cash flow, right? Literal meaning is that only, but here that's why you cannot say free cash flow is residual cash flow. So those misleading comment avoid. Again, you are telling them what to do. It would also be misleading. What is this? The second thing, to show free cash flow per share in bold. Again, it's misleading alongside EPS, as they are not comparable. They are not comparable, no? Can you compare the two things? No. One is defined by IFRS EPS, the other one is not defined. You cannot compare them. You can, therefore you cannot, in front of it you cannot bold it also. If it's comparable, makes sense. Third, definitely I'm spending more time on the first because it needs more practice and more time, because APMs usually uh, is quite challenging, even though it's easiest I've told you in terms of learning and understanding. It's one of challenging area for students, current issues and all those things. That's the reason I'm emphasizing a bit more on this one. Definitely I will not be spending so much of time on the second because it's easier. Part B, it's on cash flow. We have been doing cash flow even from our this thing, financial reporting days. Third, wait, where am I? Okay, speak. Third, that's why I was wondering. I was like, how come it became very long? EBITDA. APMs can come in many different ways, okay? Free cash flow, EBITDA. Familiarize yourself with these terms. Earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization, and rent. Interesting. See, it's APM. APM can come in any way. Okay? You must have heard about EBITDA or EBIT. But when you see EBITDA, don't ask yourself why I've not learned this. It's a new term. Oh, you're panicking. I've never come across this word. You will never come across all the APMs will be different from each paper. If you see your APM, they will be given in a different way. Something new which I've never seen will be added. Like how they have deducted rent. Normally we know earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization, but now they have deducted rent also here. So EBITDA uses operating profit as the underlying earnings. In in an earnings release just prior to the financial year end, okay, the directors disclose that EBITDA has improved by 180 million because of cost saving associated with the acquisition of an entity 6 months earlier. Because you have acquired the entity 6 months earlier, you have saved some costs. Because of that, EBITDA has improved by 180 million. Okay. So they did discuss this at length, describing it as a record performance, but did not disclose. They have disclosed them as a record performance, but they did not disclose any comparable IFRS information. Comparable IFRS information needs to be presented when you're giving some APM. So that was not disclosed, and there was no reconciliation to any IFRS measure. Okay. In the previous year, okay, rent had been deducted from the earnings figure to arrive at this APM. Previous year, this rent was deducted from the earnings to arrive at this APM. If you see the third one, here it will be more than 2 marks because majority of things you need to cover. Basically, they are saying these things are there, these things are not there. So you have to say, if it's not there, what needs to be done? Because the requirement is, the word is advice. Advice means actions. How do you advise people? You say people the do's and the don'ts, right? You should do this, you should not do this. Okay, this is recommended because of these things. These are the benefits, these are the drawbacks. Same way, like here also, that's why you see the answers are in terms of actions that you're telling them to do. The entity, they have to do this, they should not do this. So the third one, they have more. If you see the first two, they have very limited. Okay, very limited. For example, in the first one, they have only included under extraordinary items. So your part, you have to say whether it is correct or not, whether they should or they should not include in the extraordinary items. Number one. Number two, whether labeling them as extraordinary is correct or not, because they extraordinary is not something which does not occur, but this is occurring, restructuring and impairment losses. So that's how you are getting the 2 marks. Please understand the issues, number of issues that is presented. Once you understand that, it's very easy to you to get the number of points also with the marks. You will know, okay, this is the amount of marks I can collect from there. Let us go to the second one. I've missed out those things before. So how to know that marks, number of marks to collect. Second one also was 2 marks. Then the marking scheme, okay? How? One, that you have bolded out. That means you have shown free cash flow with the earnings. Number one is that 1 mark you will get from there. What is the second? About the residual cash flow. That it should not be residual cash flow and detail has to be given for the calculation. So 2 advices you are giving. 2 marks. Again 2 marks. 2, 2. Sorry, and 1 mark for APM, obviously. For that they are uh, not comparable. So 1, 2, 2. 5 marks out of 10, 5 marks already you have covered. Balance is for the rest. So for third also, if you see how many marks can you collect? How many points? Just think. Number one, record performance. Number two, they did not disclose comparable IFRS information. Number three, no reconciliation to any IFRS measure. And number four, earnings was previously deducted from earnings, whether it's correct or not. So this is how you are going to get the 4 marks. Understood? Record performance, did not disclose, did not reconcile, and rent. So out of 10, 5 marks and then 4, 9 marks. That means 1 mark is remaining for this last one, 1 mark. The tax effect. The directors have not taken any tax effect into account when calculating the remaining APMs. So tax effect is 1 mark. Now do you understood how to collect marks? Read and understand that this is how I'm going to get marks. 1 mark for rent, 1 mark for reconciliation, another mark for comparable IFRS information, and 4th mark for record performance, whether it is or not. Rest all this blah 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 blah, just the description. First few lines will always be with the description of what is actually happening in the case study. Nothing you have to take from there. That's why if you see the third answer, just compare the length with the first and the second. This will be longer. Okay, I will take you to the marking scheme. Immediately I will take you to the marking scheme. Without wasting, just see. This is 1, 2 and this is 2 marks. But if it's 4 marks. You see majority of the mark is there. Always when you're analyzing a marking scheme on your own, see this. See why something is more marks and the length is more. Why? Because definitely there are more information. More you need to write. So you need to identify the points first before you write. Tax effect is only 1 mark. If you miss out the tax effect, 1 mark you are losing. Okay. But for part B, since it's calculation, so adjustment rotation schedule 4 marks, free cash flow can say 4 marks. But for discussion, how they are getting 5 marks will be explained here. Okay. We'll come to this later at the end. Okay. And if you see the marking scheme also, it was well pleasing to see that part A was often well described, reasoned, and applied to the scenario. However, answers to part B were more varied, even though APMs looks a bit tough, open-ended type of question. How do you answer? But still, students perform well in part A compared to part B, even though statement of cash flow is supposed to be easier. Now you're understanding? When something is hard, why people perform better in that is they are more alert. They practice in that area more, thinking, getting scared that they are going to fail in that area or do bad. That's the reason that keeps you motivated to study and do more questions on APM. On the other hand, with the statement of cash flow, what's happening is you become confident, overconfident, I would say. That is easy, something I should not pay so much of attention because I have been learning it in financial reporting. That's the reason students not perform well in this one. So never be overconfident in any area, in any topic, even though you know it so well. chances are that you will blunder somewhere or the other. Those are the areas where students actually do more mistakes. The areas which they are well prepared and they know more, compared to those areas where they are scared and they are having a fear of getting it wrong, or they think that they didn't understand it well. Okay, so yeah, it's a quite interesting question. I'm actually enjoying this session a lot. I've never enjoyed a question answer session so much. I think this is one of the best for me. I don't know why today is a good day. Maybe because I slept well. Yeah, so feeling kind of. If you see the length of this one also is very less, 1 mark. But for tax of it will come later. My main thing is I have to finish this one. Third, you went through this thing. Go through the case study very well. Okay, practice it more so that when you go and when you come to write answer, you don't you remember things very well. It saves a lot of time. Why? Because if you keep forgetting, every time you have to refer back to the case study, back to the case study, back. It wastes a lot of time. If you are spending so much of time to refer back and always see what is there, when are you going to write? And another thing which I made a mistake just now, I have realized. Thanks that I've realized now, not after I finish the video. It's for 10 marks, not for 4. So 10 into 1.8 should be 18 minutes. 18 minutes spent across. So 18 minutes is how you are going to spend. If you know clearly that 1 mark for this, 2 marks for this, 2 marks, 4 marks, and 1 mark. So accordingly, you will spend. Okay. Let's say to describe AFM and everything is 1 mark. So 1 into 1, that means 1.8 minutes. Don't put decimals and all, it's confusing. If it's 1.8, you can keep it as 1 or 1.5 minutes. Okay. Keep your clock with you, check the time. Check the time, always have a habit of checking the time. Stick to the time, go to the next question. The next one is for 2 marks. So 2 into 1.8, 3.6. 3.6 means we'll spend less. 3 minutes or 3.5 minutes, 3 minutes and a half second. But who will look after each second, half second and all? It's very too much of detail is not required. Round up the number. Okay, 3 minutes or 4 minutes. So like that, you can accordingly spend your time. Okay. For a shorter question, I will show you the time management with proper time and things. Okay. So now because already 1 hour went and I didn't cover part A, I have part B to cover. So I don't want it to go till 2 hours. So today I will not spend more on time now. Just will go to part 3. Okay. What did they told? Record breaking, record performance. So when an entity presents this one, it should present the most directly comparable information. In any order you can start. Immediately they told comparable information is not there. But when you present APM, you should present most directly comparable measure that is there in accordance with IFRS standard. You have to do it with equal or greater prominence, maybe equal to that or maybe greater than that. Okay, whether an APM is more prominent would depend on the fact and the circumstances. You cannot say it's record breaking or something. It will depend on the fact and the circumstances. In this case, that means now you are linking. This is the linking point. This is how you link to the case study. In this case, so always say in this case, in this case, in this case. You can mention the company or you can say the entity. Okay, because every time you might be forgetting the name of the company, refer back to the company also is a waste of time, right? So just say in the case the entity as to this blah 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 blah. In this case the entity has omitted comparable information. They didn't give information, omitted, which is calculated in accordance with IFRS standard. Okay, from an earnings release, which includes APM such as EBITDA. This is just background you are giving. Okay, that they have omitted comparable information in accordance with this one from this place, right? What did they do? They omitted. Then additionally, use these words. It will help you. These are connecting words. It will help you to connect from one point to the next. Additionally, they have emphasized the APM record performance. I've told you. This words needs to be there in your answer. When something they have put it in you know They've highlighted some word, means your answer needs to take care of that. So entity has emphasized this measure by describing it as a record performance without an equally prominent description or any measure calculated in accordance with IFRS standard, without giving the description of it. Okay, you can link 2 or 3 points given to you, link them in one paragraph only like this. Further, you see, additionally, further, finally. So further, the entity has provided discussion of this one without a similar discussion. They discussed APM measure without a similar discussion and analysis of IFRS standard. They are telling APM is this, APM is that, but what about similar discussion of an IFRS standard for that APM? That is not given. So everything is included in that paragraph if you see. Now, entity has presented how they have presented this. They have presented this as a performance measure, such as measure that should be reconciled to profit for the year, as presented in the statement of comprehensive income. How did they start? They started with operating profit. So operating profit would not be considered for the best starting point as this one. Makes adjustments for items which are not included in operating profit such as interest and tax. I will repeat this point again. What was their starting point? Operating profit. In this case, it's not the best for EBITDA to start with operating profit. Why? Because EBITDA itself is making some adjustments that are not included in the operating profit. What are they? Interest and tax. Are they in the operating profit? No. Depreciation, okay. Amortization, okay. Rent, okay. Earnings before. But interest and tax are not. Interest is a finance cost which comes after deducting your operating cost and all. And tax comes even after that. So these two things does not come under operating costs. So they're not even included in the operating profit when you are finding operating profit. So you cannot do any adjustments with this. But EBITDA is doing adjustments with tax and depreciation. That's why operating profit in this case is not the starting point. It's not the best starting point for EBITDA. Okay. So let's talk about the rent. The entity has changed the way. They have changed the way it calculates the APM. Because early they told in the previous year rent was deducted. So this year that means they have changed. But if the entity choose to change an APM, you have to talk about this. Why? Because here they have changed an APM, the way they have calculated. That's why you have to talk about this from what you know about APM. That when you are changing an APM, I've covered this under my APM videos, okay? That when you change, what you have to do, that you have to write in your answer. So when an entity choose to change an APM, it is a valid, you can change APM. So when you choose to change an APM, because you are advising them, that's why you have to know these rules. Choosing an APM, the change and the reason for the change should be explained, and also any comparative should be restated. Why you are changing? What are the reasons for the change? You have to explain. You just cannot change according to your wish without giving reasons, explanation, anything. And comparative, now you have to change. It will be changed, restated. But a change would only be appropriate only in exceptional circumstances. Normally, change does not happen frequently, right? When a policy is set, it is set. Should not happen like this unless in some exceptional circumstances where you have to change. When the new APM better achieves the same objective. That means you feel now if you change, new APM will achieve the objective in a better way. That in that case, yes. Perhaps if there has been a change in the strategy, maybe the strategy now changes this year. So your APM you might have to change. In that case, yes, it is an exceptional circumstance, and you can change APM. So the revised APM should be reliable and more relevant also. Don't forget the word reliable and relevant. Most of the time when it comes for terms of APM, conceptual framework, information, these two words are very common: reliable, relevant. Reliable, relevant, reliable, relevant. Memorize it. So when you revise it, it should be reliable as well as more relevant also. The APM. Okay. The fourth, tax effect is not taken into account. 1 mark only. So don't write your answer tax effect is not taken. Don't come to the answer and write tax effect has to be taken. That's it. That is only your advice. No, they should provide the entity, because you are recommending to whom, you are advising to whom, the entity. So entity should provide income tax effect on his APM. Yes, even for APM, if there are any income tax effect, yes, you have to provide for that, depending on the nature of the measure. Okay, so when we talk about income tax, write more. How do you know that? How to write more? Like, usually our mind stops when you wrote, okay, income tax effect should be provided. After that, see, income tax, under income tax, there are two types of tax. Okay, immediately go to your IS 12. What does IS 12 says? Two types of tax. What are they? Current as well as deferred tax. So talk about these two things. This is how you will know that how to talk about additional points to write more. So entity should include current as well as deferred income tax expense. Okay, with the APM, and the APM should not be presented net of taxes. Income tax should be shown as a separate adjustment and explained. All these things also you have to write. Just writing income tax effect should be shown is not enough. You will not get any mark. Even though it's correct in a way, you will not get that 1 mark also. Because this facts like this you have to explain with the facts. Okay. APM should not be presented net of tax. You cannot present them after deducting tax. APM. Net of tax you cannot. You have to show them as a gross amount only. Why? Because they should be shown as a separate adjustments and explain. If you are doing any adjustments with tax, separately you have to do the adjustments and separately you have to explain. You cannot show them net of tax, the APMs. Okay. And all these things are explained in APM under at this thing. Thoroughly I have explained you. Coming to part B. First one is correct the mistakes and show the correct net cash generated from activities. This is purely calculation. It should not take so much of your time if you have understood the errors correctly. But write a proper subheading and bold your subheadings. Adjustment for net cash generated from operating activity for errors in the statement. Okay, mention the word adjustment, and for the errors you are doing the adjustments. One more thing I have missed out is what? Let me go up. Look, tutorial note. Yes. Okay. See, this comparability is one of the main important characteristics that makes an information useful. When you're not able to compare information only from year to year with another entity, information is not useful. That's why the last topic, that is about rent and all, mostly talks about this only, comparability issue. That's why when you change this thing, it becomes hard to compare, right? That's why. It is just a tutorial note, just for your understanding, right? You don't have to write tutorial note, is not there in your answer. Now, label your workings. I repeat, label your workings, because after so much of repetition also, if you don't label, when I mark question papers, please trust me, I really feel so sad that what is stopping you from doing working. I don't know why. Is it the time? If it's the time, then manage your time. Okay, manage your time. Or is it something that you don't want to do because you don't want to do? You feel you will get the marks just if the numbers are correct. I don't have to label my working. They will understand my working. You are leaving to the examiner to discover on their own that this one is for this and this working I will get here. No, that job is yours. They will not do those things. They will only mark if things are clearly given to them, labeled and everything. Then only. If it's not clearly labeled, you will lose a lot of marks. I'm telling you again. Okay? Because I have seen people making those mistakes over and over and over and over again. Because they always assume that workers will understand, sorry, the examiner will understand their working. And they always feel my working is correct. My working is correct. Why will they not give me marks? Correct, your working is correct. But how will they know that this is for this and that? And remember, they are marking thousands of papers, okay? So they will not spend their time, their valuable time, to do this working. That this is this and that. It's not their job to match and reconcile this with that. Unless things are given to them in a, you have to decorate everything nicely in a plate and then give, no? You're giving food to someone. How do you present food? You don't say, okay, I have cooked the food, is there in the dish, go and take it by yourself. You have to present it nicely on a plate and then go and give it to the person who's actually going to eat, right? To your customer or someone. Same way. This also, nicely decorate your paper and give to the examiner for them to mark. Don't make things harder for them. Otherwise, they will make things harder for you by not giving you the marks that you deserve. That you deserve, actually, you deserve. I will tell you the one of the most secret for failing number one reason is this only that I've just mentioned. Students make things very difficult for the examiner to understand. No clear labeling, no clear subheading. Things are not in paragraph, in bullet points, and very short. Sentences are short, not proper. Using short forms, too much of short forms. Their own short forms, which is not clearly labeled and very untidy. But thank God now because it's on a CB platform, it's not so much of untidy. Why? Because you don't have to cut and do that thing. But still, it is not properly labeled, even though it came on a CB platform. And hence, they keep telling me, I did this working, why I didn't get marks, why I failed. Well, just think if someone does this to you, how would you feel? Would you do the same? Like if things are not properly given to you the way it should be given to you, clearly labeled and everything, what are you going to do? Will you give marks out of mercy? Well, you want to give them marks, right? But you just cannot help it if you're unable to do that. Because someone who has done the work, they only know that for this my working, this is how I present, my working is there. But someone else is marking out there who does not even know you, no identity of you, it's just the number. How will he know that this is the way you present, that I do my all my main thing in this table, and this is with my black pen I give the workings, with my blue pen I write the answers. They will not know unless you clearly label them and show them and tell them, okay. So repeating again, okay, even though you don't want to hear it, you have to hear it unless you correct yourself and come out of that trap. It's a trap. Don't fall into that trap. Thinking, assuming, okay, it's an assumption trap. If you give me, I will also not mark. I am not doing it actually, to be honest. I will always send back the paper to you and tell you to label it properly and then come back to me. Okay. Anyway, let's come back. So label your working, mark, understand the adjustments you have made. Always start with the starting. You have to know the starting point when you have to correct error. Errors like this, when you have to correct, you are not going to say this is correct, this is the no. Like this only you are calculating. Okay, like this. In Excel, you can do this. Use Excel for this. But if you want, you can use Word or see. It's not that because numbers are there, I should use Excel only. You can use Word also. There is no at all a problem. Okay, but make sure when you're writing it in a Word, putting it in a proper table in a nice way with columns like this, one after the other, the numbers, putting it nicely. It should not be that in one line and the second line is somewhere else, third line is somewhere else. Proper order like this, structure, straight. Excel, it's easier because it's already in the columns are there, rows are there, already it is in a table format. So things are very easy for you to put. Automatically you put number, automatically they will calculate the sum. So that's one good thing in Excel. But when it comes to Word, what you have to do is you have to take a calculator. Each time you have to enter a number there, calculate this, plus this sum. Excel has a function, just drag down, take it, and the answer is there. Okay, that's why Excel is always preferred for calculations, even though it's very small. So per question, start with this draft net cash generated from operation 278. Your starting point is this 278. Don't take this 345 and then you start doing adjustments. You have to start from here, the end point, and then go back and do the adjustments. Understood? How will you do the adjustments? Looking this information. Things are here, pointed out. That this is incorrect, this is correct, this is this thing. But even though calculation is less, you have to read a lot to come to the correct calculation. That's the issue with it. Okay. So how do you start? How do you know that? How can you be so sure that you've covered all the points? Sometimes you might miss one or two, right? We'll see how many things are there. Okay, we'll count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out of 6, 4 things are added, 2 things are deducted. Okay. We'll read the items, we'll read the labels without going to the calculation first. Cash inflow relating to car disposal. You're disposing the car, cash inflow. Then obviously inflow add, outflow deduct. Effects of changes in foreign exchange rate. You're adding. Okay, maybe it's an inflow, maybe it's a gain. Sorry, inflow. So effect of changes in foreign exchange rate. Reclassification of interest paid. Add. We'll see why add. Don't question why interest paid is why it's added, why it's not deducted. There's a reclassification. Maybe because of the reclassification, uh, you have to add it back. Okay. Tax credit not recorded. Add. Associates profit. Profit, it was added before, now deducted. Incorrectly included, so now deducted. Share of associates profit. Deduct. Non-cash item that should have been deducted from profit. This is a non-cash item that should have been deducted from profit. Okay. Net cash generated from operating activity. Finally, the term is net cash generated from operating activity only, the correct one. Okay. So you see, it was 278, but it increased to 344 because of some adjustments. We have car disposal, foreign exchange. Remember these things: reclassification, tax credit, associates profits, and share of associates profits. Okay. So out of associates profit, okay, 12 incorrectly included, so that's why you're deducting it back. And share of associates profit, non-cash item that should have been deducted from profit. 4. We'll see. Okay. It's a car retailer who leases vehicles to customers under operating leases and offers sales the cars to third parties when the lease ends. No cash from operating activity for the as follows. Okay. Income tax paid, pension deficit payment, interest paid, associate share of profit. Okay. What did they start with? Selling of car. Okay. Using indirect method. Okay. These things are very easy. Net cash from investing activity included interest received of 10 million and net capital expenditure of 46 including the business acquisition below. Okay. Because investing activity includes interest received is there in investing activity as well as capital expenditure is there. Okay. See, even though you don't have to write anything under investing activity, you still need information from there to do adjustments in the operating activity. That's the reason. Excluding the business acquisition. There are also some errors in presentation of the statement of cash flow which would have an impact on the calculation of cash from operating activity. The readers have provided the following information. Okay, these are the error. Okay. Always when you have to do some adjustments, correct error. Error started from here. First point, second point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many errors are there? 6 errors are there total. So start in the order the errors are given to you. It will be very easy in that case, in that way. Then you can be sure that you didn't miss out on anything. So this one, number 1. Number 1 is what? Car treated as PPP when held under operating lease. And when they became available for sale, they are transferred to inventory at their carrying amount. In a statement cash flow for the year ended, cash flow from investing activity included cash inflows related to disposal of cost of 30 million. Rest all is not important. You always have to see for cash inflow or cash outflow. Understood? The investing, whether and operating. Cash inflow, take, cash outflow, deduct from operating activity. Whether car is treated as this or that or this is not so important right now. Maybe for your explanation purpose you might need it, but for calculation just say this. So cash inflow, that means you have disposed car, out of that you have received 30 million. So take that 30 million. You see, this is the first one. In fact, first error. This is the way even your examiner will present to you, like this, the way they have given you the error. So you also do it in this way. In this way you can just tick, okay, this is over, this is over, this is over. You can be sure that you didn't miss out on anything and you have included all the error. Okay, if you are doing it in any order, it's a very risky, highly risky. Second, it's an inflow. Second, okay, 25% interest in associate for cash, that means they have, it's an associate. Okay, report profit after tax 16 million, the associate's profit, and they paid a dividend of 4 million. Out of this profit, dividend was paid. As this can be seen in the calculation above, the debtors included a figure of 12 million. That means they have deducted 16 from 4 and they have shown a 12 million when they were calculating net cash generated from operating activity. If you see here, you see here they have shown you associate share of profit 12, because why? They have deducted that dividend 4 million from 16. The associate was correctly recorded at 23 million in the statement of financial position, and profit for the year was 4 million, was included in the statement of profit and loss. No adjustment was made for their share of the associate's profit when calculating cash generated from operating activity. Just give me a minute. Okay. No adjustment was made for the David share. Okay. When calculating cash generated from operating activity. So if you go here, we'll finish the second one. Okay. Even though here you might see, okay, that they have taken this at the end. Associates profit and share profit. Okay, this you can take before also. I would say you to take it right after this first one. I don't know why it is in this order, but better to take this because that's the second error. So associates profit 12 million. Incorrectly it was added, deducted now 12. Okay, now share of associates profit 4. You have to deduct. Now it is the correct profit of associate, which is 4. So deduct it. Should be deducted. Understood? So this is over, this is over, this is over. Now we are only left with tax credit, interest paid, and foreign exchange rate. Second is first is over, second is over. 4 should be the actual share profit associate that you have deducted, okay? Because profit deduct. 12 incorrectly, so you deduct. It was added, that means incorrectly added, deducted. Now this one, you see this associate share of profit. It was added, deducted, and deduct 4 million also because it should be deducted. Third, David also acquired a digital mapping business for the year ended. The statement of the cash flow shows a loss of 28 million. In the net cash generated from operating activity, the statement of change in foreign exchange arising in the transaction of the the assets and liabilities of the course have been clearly included. Okay, assets and liabilities are clearly included. Everything okay. So main is loss. When you retranslate the overseas subsidiary. So because of that, there's a loss of 28 million. Loss, add back 23. 28, sorry. 28. Now, that is also over. So in that way, you know, first three are over. See, out of the paragraph, not everything is required, not important. Other things is quickly you can read. Main thing is this loss of 28 million. This only you have to take in your answer. That's it. Now fourth. During the year, they made exceptional contributions to the pension plan assets of 33 million, but the statement of cash flow had not recorded. They have not recorded the tax cash benefit of 6 million. The cash tax benefit of this one. This whatever they have made contribution to this is not important. This 33 million. Okay. If something is affecting your cash flow, only you have to include. That's it. Remember that. So cash tax benefit is 6 million was not recorded. Now recorded. Now you have to record it. It's a benefit. So add 6 million. And finally, we only are left with the interest paid 18 million. That's it. This is also over. Fourth, they have capitalized the interest paid of 25 million into PPP 18 million and inventory 7 million. 18 plus 7. That means this 25 they have put in PPP and inventory also. That's how they have capitalized the interest paid. Capitalized. Understood? Out of 25. But out of this, you have to add 18. Why? If you see, David has defined, has capitalized the interest paid from PP and inventory. 18 to this and 7 to this. And if you see here, reclassification of interest paid 18 million they have added. That means in that interest was deducted. Okay. Now you have to add back. You need to understand the fourth point more. You will understand it from the first point because it is relating to property, plant and equipment. The first, the cars are treated as property, plant and equipment when held under operating leases, and when they become available for sale, they are transferred to inventory. And this one, so it includes inflow related to disposal cost of 30 million. Okay. And then here, interest for PPP 18 and inventory 7 million. Okay. So definitely relating to car and all, because it's operating lease and all, this 18 million, you must have deducted it from the interest paid. Now add back 18 million. Okay. So this 7 million will not have an impact here because this 7 million, after you are selling it, then you have to do this, right? So when you are selling it, it will not be a lease anymore. When you are selling it, it will not come under operating activity anymore, the interest paid. Understood? Only for this property, plant and equipment, it's there. That's why 18 million you have to add back. Anyway, when you are explaining in your explanation, you will understand why you have done it. They have defined operating free cash flow as net cash generated by operating activities adjusted for net capital expenditure, purchase of associates, and dividend received, interest received, and paid. Any exception item should be also be excluded from the calculation of free cash flow. Okay, so now if you see, they have got this. Now we are coming to the free cash flow reconciliation. For that, we need the last point. Last point was not needed for this one, but we need it for this. They tell you how to calculate operating free cash flow. Make sure you read the note this carefully, the last note carefully. Okay, because they told as note described above. So operating free cash flow, how it is defined, clearly they have told net cash by operating activity as adjusted after you have adjusted it with that for net capital expenditure, purchase of associate, dividend received, interest received and paid. Any exceptional item should also exceptional items are excluded from the calculation of free cash flow. Already they have given you the method to calculate. So using this, you have to do. Okay. So start from here. Net cash, that is operating activity according to part B 344. This is why you need to do this question in the order, because you need this. You see, the end point becomes the starting point here. If your that one is wrong, this one will become wrong. But you will lose 1 mark for the workings. Other workings you will get marks. Okay. Don't be so sad if this becomes incorrect. Also for this things you will get marks. Even though this again it will be wrong, but it's okay. You will lose 1 or 2 marks. So net capital expenditure, clearly they told. Deduct purchase of associate, add dividend received, add interest received, deduct interest paid, and any exceptional item. So this might be an exceptional item, the last one. We'll come to that later. Net capital expenditure is 46. This you will get it from not here. First point here. 46 million. You see? Oh wait, I will highlight it. Uh, 46 million. Okay. Interest received is 10 million. So wherever you can see the number, take from here. Can you see any more number? And how much did you purchase the associate? 23 was the associate. The statement of financial position. You have to take that. And they made an exceptional contribution to the pension scheme of 33 million. And maybe for interest paid, maybe you have to take the 7 million. We'll see. So these are some numbers that you need for this. So net this purchase of associate is 23. Working one is there. There's a working for this. Working one, don't put working under your main table. It should be separate. After you have finished, wait. After you have finished, this is the finishing point. After this, your working starts. Okay. We'll go to that later. I will skip and go to purchase dividend. 25% of associate and dividend was 4. So take 25%. Always take the percentage of the associate for the dividend, the full amount of dividend. You will always be given the full amount of dividend, which is 4 million. You should not take 4 million here as a dividend received from associate. Take 25% of that dividend, which is 1. Interest paid 10 is already given there with the first one. Interest paid 18 million. The one for the PPP, not the inventory. Because inventory PP, this thing will not come here. It will come as a finance cost. Understood? This comes under operating activity. Why? Because it is an operating lease, the PPE. It will be classified as PPE if you are still using it, the car, property, plant, and equipment. That's why this interest paid already will be there. 18. Please understand this. Pension deficit payment. Add back to exclude. What is add back to exclude? Out of 33, 6 million was tax benefit. Correct? This 6 million tax, this thing, if you see here, you have already added it out of that 33. So what else you need to add? Only the remaining, not the full amount of 33. 33 minus 6, 27 only you have to add back to include. Add back to exclude. Maybe it was deducted, the pension deficit payment, add back to exclude. Free cash flow. This part again, a little bit, I need more guidance. Wait. We are told that they are exceptional. It is easy to miss this. They exclude exception item when calculating free cash flow. What does it mean? They exclude when calculating free cash flow. Okay, exclude. Exclude means they deduct normally. But since this is not there in the free cash flow, you cannot say you are going to exclude. You have to add back. You have to reverse. When they told deduct something to get something, when it is not there means what? Do the opposite. Add. because you are deducting pension deficit means you are finding free cash flow, but this does not even come under free cash flow. It's an exceptional item, so add back to exclude, not to include. This you need to understand. 27. Again I will see the figure 27 just to confirm. Okay, it's always good to confirm in tough areas, risky areas like this. Hmm. 93. The statement of capital record the decimal 6. So 27. Okay. Out of 33 will 27. That 27 will be excluded. Now we'll see working number 1. Purchase of associate. How? What is the purchase cost? This is the balancing figure that you have to find out. They didn't give the amount. They just told in the statement of financial position it is at 23. Go back. So starting point. What was the share of profit of associate? It was 4. And dividend received, just now you have calculated 25% of that 4. 1. Deduct. So when you are going back, it will be 23 plus 1, minus becomes plus, and minus becomes plus. So minus 4. 23 plus 1, 25 minus 4 is 20. Sorry, 23 plus 1 is 24, minus 4 is 20. Go back and this is the balance figure 20. Why you want this balance figure? Because this is the amount that you have purchased, the cost. This is the equity method only. In your group accounting, you must have known under IS 28 associates. You start with the cost of the associate at what amount you have purchased the associate with, add their profit, dividend received deduct, get the carrying amount. Closing will be given, which is then your statement of financial position. Normally what happens, you have to find this amount. This is the balancing figure to find cash received or paid. Sorry, dividend received or paid from associate. Now here in this case, that is also given to you. So find the balancing figure. That is the purchase cost, because nowhere they have mentioned that this is the amount that you have purchased the associate for. That's why you need to find out. That's why there's a working. 20. Don't take 23. This 23 comes in the state carrying amount. That is the closing balance. How do you know? Because they told in the statement of financial position. It's given. When it is given in the statement of financial position, it is not the purchase cost. It is the carrying amount, closing amount. They will clearly mention you. They have purchased the associate at this amount. This is the consideration. This is the cost of associate. Then, yes. But they told they have taken correctly in the statement of financial position. That's why. So, just give me a time. So, that's it for associate. Oh, yeah. So, purchase of associate deduct 20. Formula is already given to you, right? Get it. Now, we are coming to the explanation of adjustments. 5 marks. 1 mark for one issue. Keep your explanations brief. If you are explaining worth of 10 marks, not worth it. So 5 points, 5 different paragraphs using 5 different subheadings. Purchase and sale of car. Purchase of associate. Give in the order given to you. The error is given to you like that. This is the first error, second error. Yeah? I think there are 5 errors only. The last one is just a method of finding free cash flow. Foreign exchange losses. Definitely the answers are bigger. You don't have to write so much. Okay? Pension payments and interest paid. You see? For this you are getting the 5 marks. And definitely the 2 professional marks for the way you write. So starting with purchase and property, plant and equipment. Under this. Okay. They have presented how? They have presented it, the sale of car, as an investing activity. Okay. But this is incorrect. Because you are explaining here now. Remember the issues you are explaining. So this is incorrect. Because cash flow from sale of car, this should be presented from as an operating activity. The 30 million. Why? Because they told. Why? Because they have labeled them as property, plant and equipment, IS 60. they are normally using it as a lease, as an operating lease. When they are selling it, then you can take them as an investing activity. Understood? So use the rule of IS 16, use the standard. When you're explaining, you have to make use of the standard. Why this is like this? IS 16 states that an entity which normally sells an item of PPE which are held for rental. That means when you are selling any property, plant and equipment that you are selling it for rent, to collect rent, or to others, they should wait, let me read again. Normally sales items of PPE which are held for rental to others should transfer such assets to inventories at their carrying amount when they cease to be rented and become held for sale. Understood or not? You are selling an item of PP that you are from which you were collecting rent before. Now you're selling it. So when you're selling it, it becomes held for sale, right? How are you collecting it? How do you measure it? You take it as an inventory at their carrying amount. You take them as an inventory at the carrying amount. That's why an inventory comes where? Under operating activity. Working capital, remember, you do adjustments, increase or decrease in inventory, payable, receivable. That's why. So you should transfer such assets to inventories. After that, you have to transfer them to inventories at their carrying amount. Okay, when you're selling them. But when you're selling them, you cannot hold them as PPE. PPE means property, plant and equipment defines an asset as a non-current. That means you're holding them more than 12 months. You're not selling them. But once you're still planning to sell them, they become an inventory. Understood? They'll be transferred in inventory. Inventories are taken under operating activity. But property, plant and equipment, yes, under investing activity. But it's no longer a property, plant and equipment. Subsequent proceeds from the sale of such assets should be recognized as revenue. So that means when you are getting any profit from selling those assets, they should be recognized as a revenue when you are selling that, because when you're selling an inventory, what happens? You just recognize a revenue, no? You don't recognize revenue when you're selling your land or buildings, property, plant and equipment. You recognize them as an investing activity. But in this case, because it is classified as an inventory, after you're selling that car, it will be any revenue, anything you are receiving from the customer will be recognized as revenue in accordance with IFRS 15. As just shown as cash flow from operating activity. Coming to purchase of associate, this is easier. Actually, rest all are easier. The first one was the tough part. Cash paid for investment of 20 million. Already you have calculated above, right? And cash received from the dividend of 1 million. So in order to arrive at the correct figure for net cash from operating activity, remember you have to explain in the first and the second why you have done the adjustment. In the first, adjustments, right? So to correct the correct figure for the cash operating activity, the incorrect treatment of profit for the year, this must be eliminated. This 12 you have to eliminate. It's an incorrect treatment of profit. And the correct adjustment of 4 million should be shown in this place. Okay. Now, foreign exchange loss. Coming to this. I7, okay, says that any gain or losses, unrealized gain or losses that arises from any changes in foreign exchange, they are not cash flow. Correct? So the amount that are reported in the statement of cash flows included in error. The effect of changes in foreign exchange arising on the retranslation of its overseas operations. When you are retranslating overseas subsidiary, there might be some difference in the exchange rates. That gain or loss needs to be adjusted because it's not a cash flow item. So you have to add back the loss. because you have deducted that loss to get the profit earlier. So as a consequence, cash generated from operating activity should increase by 28 million. All exchange differences that are related to the subsidiary are recorded under other comprehensive income, exchange differences, and they are taken as a separate component of equity. On dispose, see, even if you're not getting all the points from the answer, to write in your answer, at least getting one point is enough for you to get the 5 marks. 1 point. Okay. When you're disposing the foreign operation, what happens? The subsidiary finally you are selling it off. Any gain or losses that were there in the other comprehensive income will now be reclassified to statement of profit and loss. Now pension payment. This is correctly included in the operating cash flow, but they exclude it when calculating free cash flow. And the tax cash benefit was also not included. So the net cash from operating activity, they have adjusted the 6 million. And the 27 million, this will be excluded from the free cash flow calculation. You're just writing it in words. What you have done in calculation. That this is included, this was not there, that's why this is done like this, that's it. Interest paid, the last one. Interest paid which is capitalized as part of cost of PPP, this should be treated as cash flow from investing activity. Okay. And interest paid and capitalized as part of inventory, this should be classified within operating activity, because inventory, right, short term comes in operating activity. Thus there should be a reclassification of interest paid of 18 million from the operating section to the investing section. Okay, now I've understood why that 18 million you have added the PPE. Why? Because that PPPE will now come under inventory. Correct? It needs to be reclassified to from operating to investing. Sorry, the PPE one. From operating section to investing section it will go, the PPE. PPE cannot stay in operating section. Only the inventory interest can stay there, the 7 million. What about 18 million? This 18 million was already deducted when you wanted to find the operating profit. That's why it was added back now, because now it's no longer under operating activity. It will go to investing activity. Understood? You need to visualize this thing. Okay, I will show you a visualization here, because we are over with the question. I have some time, I can explain you. See, 18 million, this is for PPE interest. Okay, where will this go? Normally investing activity, it will go to investing activity only, because PPE only inventory will go to. So this 18 million, okay, without this classification, normally what they have taken is they have deducted some 18 million cost to find profit after, okay, profit after interest and tax, profit after interest and tax, let's say XXX. Understood? Now this will go to investing activity, because it's no longer, it cannot stay in the operating activity. It's incorrect. They have incorrectly deducted interest, the interest of PPE 18 million. That's why you are adding it back again from here. Understood? You are adding this again, this 18 million again you are adding to increase your profit before interest and tax. And then later from investing activity you are going to deduct that 18 million. But from operating activity it was deducted before, add it back again, because it's no longer under operating activity PPA, it will go under investing activity. But regarding that 7 million for inventory, the interest that you have capitalized, this nothing to do, already it was deducted before correctly, it is correctly there, there is no error for that, so you don't have to do any adjustment. Capitalized as inventory means it is taken as inventory only, stocks inventory, so that you don't have to do any adjustment. Only for this 18, because it changed from operating to investing, that's why it will be no longer under operating activity. You have to exclude it from operating activity, take it out from operating activity. That's why what was deducted before, add it back. But if something is correctly deducted before, you don't have to add it back, like for inventory. But for inventory, it comes later, down, you know, after operating activity, I think the adjustments are done for. No, 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 not sorry. I'm sorry. It's regarding interest here. That is correct. I'll take you to that part. That little portion is left. It could be misconfusing later. So, mm, the fourth point, or fifth point, interest paid 25 million, 18, and inventory 7 million. They have capitalized the interest paid. That means they have taken this as property, plant, equipment out of this interest and 7 for inventory. Okay. So that's the reason. So that's it for, we have covered everything, right? Yes, so that's it for this question, and this is, I think, my longest video on a question. Usually it does not go till 2 hours, but never mind. It's for your betterment only, and take things that I have advised into consideration. And in the beginning of the video, I've mentioned about SBL and AAA, so do follow what I've given. And best of luck, and see you in the next question. Till then, take care.